Hey y'all, Jen here from PepperHarrow Farm. Today we're going to be talking about our spring seed successions and a few non-spring flower successions that we do of a few of the flowers that we have early season. We're excited to share a little bit more about that with you all today. You might be wondering, what is succession planting? Succession planting is planting your flowers out in successive plantings so that you don't have everything blooming all at once, so that you can have blooms all season long. For this first spring succession, that's what we're going to be talking about today. You all have probably seen our succession planting video, and if not, we'll link it either in the description below, or Adam can maybe put a link above, a hyperlink above, so you can click on it and head to that video. It really talks a lot more about how we do succession planting here at PepperHarrow and the types of seeds that we do at different times of year. Today we're going to be talking about just what we do in the spring, but there are 3 other different successions of seeds that we start at various times of the year. I'm here with you all today in our greenhouse, and our greenhouse is not heated right now, but guess what? We're getting ready to fire it up. Adam doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to make him start it today. A few of the seeds that we're going to be talking about today are going to be started in here, and there's a few that will actually still be started inside. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about why I'm making that distinction of ones that I start out here versus the ones I take inside to do some seed starting on. So let's get started. I especially love to fire up the greenhouse in the spring, early spring, when it has been cold out all season long. We're located in Iowa, Zone 5B, South Central Iowa. And it has been very, very cold, and we've gotten a ton of snow. We're at the end of January, and we're just ready for a little dose of getting some seeds going and the possibilities and beauty of what lays ahead of us for our season ahead. Doing the seed starting now for some of the seeds that we're doing are going to allow us to have some flowers at the end of April, clear through to the beginning of June. What we're doing now is critical for making sure that we can get through the early season and have plenty of flowers to share with our local community. You might be wondering about the seeds that we actually get started now, and I'm going to go over those with you today. When we receive our seed packets, there's a few things I do. The first thing I do is I go separate out the seeds that require a little bit of cold stratification. Stratification is where seeds need a little bit of cold to be able to get the germination process started. So I took those seeds and I put them immediately in our refrigerator. I mean, it's not fancy, but it works for a little bit just to keep them nice and chilled until I'm ready to start the seed starting process. A few of the seeds that I do for the cold stratification are Baplerum. We also have some, looks like we have some larkspur here. I have some, I have some butterfly milkweed, it looks like. Also, I have some nigella. I have Aquilegia, which is columbine. So those are some of the seeds I take and I stick in my refrigerator to give them a little cold stratification. These are the seeds I'm going to start today. And you might be wondering, a few of those, like the columbine, it's actually a perennial. It's not going to bloom this year, but I want to go ahead and get them started so that I can grow them up into really nice sized plants before I transplant them out into the garden. But I can expect blooms not this year, but next year will be the first time. I always view it as like making an investment into tomorrow today. So that's how I handle those. But I always love to start a few perennials. The other seed packets I have here, I'm going to just go over them. These are ones I separated out. The logic behind it is I have some early perennials in here that I want to get started, and there are some early spring flowers that can take a little bit of cold weather. I'm going to tell you what those are here in a second. All right. So the first one here that I see is Dianthus. Dianthus is also known as Sweet William. That's the common name. I love Sweet William in bouquets, especially this variety that I have. It's sweet mix. It gets a little bit taller, which we need. Typically, Dianthus can be kind of short. I specifically picked this variety because I know it's a little bit taller, so I'm going to get those started and make sure I get them out into the garden. Again, they probably won't flower this year. That's okay. I just want to grow them up and have them to be able to transplant out. I also have agrostemma, which is also called corn cockle. Looks like I have a purple one here. I have a white one. And I also have a ton of snapdragons. Snapdragons are one of the ones that can take a ton of cold and just keep on kicking. Some of the snapdragon colors that I'm looking to do are shell pink. I have some white. I have some stock. And if you're a little bit more curious about how you start stock from seed, we'll link the video below or pop a little link up at top so that you can go directly to that video. We've done a seed starting video for stock and I think it's pretty darn good. You should go check it out. I probably won't start all of these today, and that's the other thing we'll talk about here in a second. A fun one that I have in here is called sapoglossus. It was the first time that I grew it last year. I'm going to grow it again. So I have sapoglossus in here, Q blue. I have some perennial salvia that I'm going to do. This is patio sky blue. I have pink asters in here. I have bachelor's buttons in here. Various colors of bachelor's buttons apparently. There's purple, there's white, there's a mix, all kinds of things. I have a grass in here called bunny tails. If y'all don't know what bunny tails is, it sends up like a shoot of grass and it has like a little puff on the end and they look absolutely beautiful. When we pop these into bouquets, people lose their minds. The only thing with these is that we notice that they do not like to take a lot of heat. That's why we start them a little bit early. For the bunny tails, they take a little bit more, they take a little bit longer to grow up in the cell tray. So we'll leave them in there a little bit longer. We won't be able to plant these in the cold. We'll have to wait until more towards the beginning of May to be able to plant those seeds. Several of those flowers that we talked about that I'm going to be seed starting now are the ones that can take cold. The easiest way you can look at the ones that can take cold are ones that are basically a little bit hardier. So we're talking about snapdragons, larkspur, stock. All of these very early spring flowers do really, really well with the cold weather. Agrostemma does okay, but it's one that I wait a little bit longer for. It resists cold. It's a little bit more tender. It doesn't like it as much, but it still does really great. I just will plant that a little bit later than my snapdragons and my stock. Snapdragon, stock, and larkspur, they are tried and true. They can handle the tough growing conditions. They can take a little bit of frost, and they just keep kicking. So those are ones I'm definitely going to start with first. A few of those other ones that you guys saw, I'm still going to start them now. I'm just going to wait and plant them, let them get a little bit bigger in their cell tray, plant them out a little bit later, closer to my last frost date. For us in Zone 5B, our last frost date is on or around May 15th. Today is January 29th, so you can get an idea of how early I'm starting. I'm going to start these seeds now, and I plan to have them planted out by mid-March-ish. Maybe the beginning of April, but definitely mid-March is my goal. If I can get them in the ground and growing by then, I know for sure that I'm going to have them by the end of April or early June. I'm going to show you all a few of the bouquets that we make with some of these blooms early season. We pair them with a lot of ranunculus, anemone, tulips, allium, whatever these early spring flowers are that are going to bloom, even flowering branches. These are the things that we're going to use these flowers to supplement around and to make beautiful bouquets with. As you all know, everybody is just barely holding it together in early and even mid-spring to create bouquets. Starting some of these seeds that I just shared with you today is going to help give you a jump start and make sure that you can have plenty of beautiful bouquets all through early spring to mid-spring season. Bupalarum is another one that we have a really great seed starting video on, so you should definitely check it out. It's a little bit trickier, so you should go check that out and find out some of our tips and tricks for doing some seed starting for Bupalarum. Okay, I told you all there was a little bit of a secret with what I'm going to keep out in this greenhouse versus what I'm going to still take inside and do seed starting inside. What I'm going to leave out here is the stalk. The stalk does not mind a little bit cooler growing temps. I don't like it to be very cold. Stalk needs to be between 65 and 70 degrees very consistently, but I know that the greenhouse can maintain those temperatures in here and they'll stay nice and warm. Snapdragons, on the other hand, need to be a little bit more on the warm side. And I know because we're at the end of January, the temperatures outside during the day, at night, they're just not regulated enough to make sure that it's going to stay nice and warm in here. Even at night when we have the heat cranked up, there are still little pockets of cool in here, and those snapdragons just will not do a really great job. Snapdragons benefit from a very consistent, controlled environment. And because we're not airtight here in our little prop house, it means that the snapdragons will not thrive and will not germinate like I need them to. And that was a learning lesson for me last year. It was the first time that I'd grown in my little propagation house here. And I saw that they needed a little bit more controlled environment and they need a warmer environment. So the warmer the better for snapdragons. I still keep my little growing space inside around 70 degrees, but sometimes it'll get up to 75. They like that. The other thing I'm doing right now at the end of January is I have pre-soaked my ranunculus corms, and now I'm going to get them started. I use a little tray like this. This is a mesh tray. You can see it's open at the bottom. I like this because it allows for a lot of airflow and it makes sure that I won't have any rotting. It is a little bit more messy as I put my seed starting medium in here. Sometimes it can slip through the bottom, but that's why I'm doing it out here inside of my little prop house. After I do this, it's going to stay in there for the most part, and then I'm going to load in and put my ranunculus in there. So I'll show you guys what that looks like. I'm going to fill it up. This is my little station, my little tray filling station that Adam made for me. It is a lifesaver. Not having this, I was really out after the tornado, not being able to have a spot to fill up all my trays. So this was amazing. So I put the seed starting medium in here, and I'm just going to push down a little bit to make sure it's not too light. I want it to be nice and firm to make sure that medium doesn't fall out that bottom. So I have it ready to go. Now I'm going to bring it over and start popping my ranunculus in here. Okay, here they are. I soaked my ranunculus in my Le Creuset. I mean, you do that too, right? So I let my ranunculus soak in my Le Creuset bowl for 24 hours. I started them yesterday. I let them soak overnight. I drained off all of the water, and now I'm getting ready to put my ranunculus in my little seed starting medium here. So watch along. This is what we're gonna do. All right, so there are about 500 ranunculus corms in here, and I know about 100 will go in each of these trays. So I'm gonna ultimately need 5 of these. Typically, if I wasn't doing a video for you guys, I'd do all 5 of these right up front and just get ready to go. But I want to show y'all what it looks like to put these into the tray so you get an idea instead of me doing all 5 and having you see everything. All right, so I'm going to just grab them. You're going to put the top of the ranunculus corm on top. The little shoots that come off that look like little legs, those are going to go down into the seed starting medium. And I'm just going to pop them in. I really start to get tired of this, after I get it over like 2,000. I get really tired, like I don't want to do any more of these. In nice, neat rows, neatish. I'm not that particular. Just going to do this to the best of my ability. I'm not counting how many per tray. I'm just popping them in wherever I can get them in. And it's okay to pack them in as tight as possible. They don't need a ton of room to do this pre-sprout process. And a few of you have told me that you guys don't even pre-sprout, you just put them right in the ground. But this is the way I have had the most success with, and this is what I do. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't experiment and try different things and see what works for you. This just works for me, and sometimes I just kind of stick with the game plan, especially when I have a ton of things to do on my plate, and I know I have a tried and true method that works for me. But occasionally I do experiment. I kind of push the envelope a little bit and try a few different things, especially if I hear something over and over. I may hear something once and kind of shrug it off, but if I hear it multiple times, usually I'll take a minute and try the process out. The color that we're starting here first is orange, and if you all have been watching our videos, you know the next color that I'll probably be doing is pink. We love orange and pink together, and the reason why I just don't have them done all together is because I need to stagger. I knew I only had time to get these 500 started today, but the rest of the week I'm going to be starting one variety per day and getting them going. You might think that that staggers them out and like does kind of a succession, but that is not the case for me in my growing zone. I know that no matter when I start my little corms, they will all bloom at the same time. I have experimented with succession planting them. And for me, that has not worked. They have not successioned. They always just bloom at the same time anyway. So that's why I do everything at the same time and just get them all in the ground and go from there. That may not be what happens for you in your growing zone, but that's what happens here for me in 5B. There are a lot of ranunculus in this tray. Like I said, I didn't count. I'm not worried about it. I just want to be done with this and get this entire bowl done so that we can get all of the orange pre-sprouted and ready to go. You guys might be wondering how long it takes to pre-sprout these. It depends on their growing environment. If they do like it a little bit more on the cool side, but they do need a warm environment to get them really going. I typically start my ranunculus inside. I set them out of direct light and just make sure that it stays around 60 degrees. And they usually pre-sprout and start growing within 2 weeks. So that's when I can expect these to be ready, is in about 2 weeks. Typically, I can let them go past that 2 weeks and let them go for about a month. I do harden them off before I transition them outside into the growing area. So keep that in mind. They do need to be hardened off before you plant them in the ground. Here's the final product. I'm gonna guess I probably have like 400 or 350, but there's a lot left to go. But you get an idea of how this tray looks and how full it is. I'll get a close up for y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed today's video, learning a little bit more about the flowers that we do in succession in the spring, what we're starting now to have blooms for as early as we can possibly get. If you have any questions, comment them below, or if you like this video, comment below too. If y'all like today's video, subscribe to our channel and smash that like button. It really does help us out so much. Thank y'all for joining me today, and happy growing.